So one of the things that we always take a look at is, why do people pick Frisco? And, we have the list here. You can see the schools, the low taxes, the amenities, the sports and all of those things, but also the fact that there's jobs here. Very high concentration of headquarters, in Frisco, but also our neighbor to the south, Plano. I mean, all of those drive employment, and employment drives home ownership. I mean, it's just amazing, the fact that this market is still as strong as it is. And I tell you, just having those jobs where people can work, the thing of it is some people still do commute down to Dallas, but what our goal is more and more is to keep those people and create these jobs in Frisco, so that commute gets smaller and smaller and shorter, because all that does is create even a better quality of life for those individuals who live here. So, that is something that's really important to us as well. And also our walkable spaces and our master plan communities, and even some of the activities that the mayor has really championed, and the council, regarding even open space in our business areas, so that those individuals can walk to work, or they can walk across the street and they can get something to eat. Those kinds of things are very important as well. The other thing is our public-private partnerships that we talk about all the time. In this one, I'm just going to start with the one that really is the cement that binds us together, and that partnership really is with our school district. I mean, the fact that we've had such a long relationship, and the fact that we have such a great relationship, the fact that I know our superintendent and the assistant superintendents and many of his staff by name, the fact that we can, pick up the phone and call each other and say, hey, we got this working, or we have this issue. Whether it's a school zone or it's a business coming in, we can pick up the phone and have those kind of conversations. I think is really what is the foundation of what makes us so strong. And also, though, our public-private partnerships with our businesses, the fact that, we can come alongside private business and really be able to deliver whenever it's really needed. And you'll see some of these examples here on some of these projects. I think that the fact that those partnerships have been good, and they've been a win-win for both sides, really is something that's been very important to us so far, and I think will continue to be. Mayor, again, do you have anything you want to add yet before I go to the next slide? All right, next slide, please. So again, Mayor was talking about some of the accolades that, we have been so fortunate to get for our community. You'll notice there, best city for first-time home buyers among mid-sized cities. That one, July of 2020. That one is really big, especially in everything that you do and the wonderful job that your organizations do, bringing people in to be able to be home buyers and home ownership. Whether that's a ownership or a rental, either way, to be able to have that accolade, we think is very important. Especially when you talk about companies who are coming in and businesses who roll in and they say, are you going to be able to provide housing for our staff? I mean, that's really important. Not only the CEOs, but the whole staff. Can we help them? Can we provide space for them? Can we have locations? And here we are, a first-time home buyer accolade, we think is very important to be able to have that conversation with our companies. And then also, again, as the mayor mentioned, the most recession-resistant cities. As he said, we're going to see, but again, we're already starting to see, starting to crawl out of this, and we feel like that we do want to be able to live up to that accolade as well. Next slide, if you don't mind. So this is just a snapshot of really what Frisco looks like. You can see we're at 199,000 and counting. We are still adding new citizens every day, both individuals as well as corporate citizens, and we're just glad that that continues to move. That median age of 37.7. The mayor fits in there being the youngest mayor elected. I don't, but I can tell you that it's really a lot of fun to see that a lot of the people who come here are kind of in that child rearing. That's why our school district grows so fast, and the fact that they've got kids and they're in the school system, and they're recreating and doing all of these things. So that age is really kind of in there where so many are having kids and their families, etc. Another big thing, though, for our companies that is really important here is that number in the upper right-hand corner. 67% of our residents age 25 and plus, bachelor's degree or higher. The fact is, we've just got a really highly educated population, which means not only are they educated, but it means that they're skilled and they're ready to put into the workplace. They're ready to put into these companies that are talking to us. You know, when that company says, hey, you know, are you going to be able to fill my jobs? Are you going to be able to provide me a pipeline of people who can work here? The answer is yes. And I can tell you that is actually bolstered by the fact that we've got not only a great high school with an education program that puts kids out that are actually employment ready, but also our community college, Collin College, who is here. We've got a great relationship with them, working with Texas Workforce Development, that pipeline. But then you add to that the fact that we've got University of North Texas, you know, putting a 4-year campus right here in Frisco. And by the way, in case you don't know it, they're already here. They've been here. And matter of fact, they've got a nice campus over at Hall Park right now. And they're already generating new employees that can work in high-tech industry. And so I think between what Collin College is doing with their technology campus, what UNT is bringing to bear today, and all that's going to do is just really grow and blossom as the campus comes here, that's going to help us bring even more companies. You know, you see that other big number there, that 40% growth in technology sector jobs in the DFW area. So all of that's important to be able to tie that together. Mayor, again, is there anything you'd like to add to that before we go to the next one? Okay, next slide. So again, I talked about our population. One of the things that's really interesting here is that when you look at our population by age, you'll notice how much of this, if you look at the 5 to 17-year-olds, 25% of our population is in that age. So that means then these are, as we said, you've got the age of 37, 34.7, having kids. That's why that is so big in terms of our population makeup. But you'll also notice that 18 to 64 makes up that 60%. Again, most of those people are in the market and they're working. So again, it means we've got people who are employable, people who are employed, but also people that we can push into these jobs. Again, you'll also notice over there, excellent public schools. I've already talked about that. Our live, work, play. One of the things that we've done is we've kind of changed that up a little bit. It's not just live, work, play, but we are live, work, play, and educate. Because now when you look at our high school, our Collin College, our University of North Texas, so that we keep that pipeline full for those companies. Next slide. Another big thing, obviously, is tax rate. As you deal with your clients and individuals who are looking at buying homes here, when you take a look at this and see what our city tax rate looks like, you got to give a lot of credit to the mayor and council for staying on top of that, and making sure that we manage well with what the resources that we're given. Mr. Purefoy, our city manager, by the way, our one and only city manager for all of these years. That's another big thing as far as stability goes. We have a lot of people in our city organization who have been here a long time. So there's a wealth of knowledge and also about how to build these relationships and these partnerships. But it all gets back to then at the end of the day of managing within your resources. And again, you can see based on this slide here that we really, I think our city manager and the team do a great job of that under the leadership of the city council. Mayor,
Ron, the only thing I'll add here to this slide is Frisco also has a 10% homestead exemption. We have a goal as a council to get to the state maximum of 20%. So we just put this into place 3 years ago at 7.5%. We raised it 2 years ago to 10. So we're hoping to continue to raise that. And then in addition, Frisco is very senior friendly. So we have an $80,000 senior exemption on top of that. And the school district actually has a senior freeze on their school property taxes for seniors.
Very good. Thank you, sir. All right. So again, what helps sets us apart, obviously our hospitality, our sports, entertainment, You know, all of these things that you see here, PGA we'll talk about a little bit, but all of these different wonderful partners that we've got really help to set us apart on top of all of the wonderful residential that we have and also the commercial and businesses that we have here as well. So it's really, this sets us apart because it's on top of, it's additive to all of those other things that makes a great community. Next slide. So a lot of people ask about what's the future, you know, post COVID. I will tell you, as I've said before, we stay and remain very, very active. You know, our corporate development really is continuing to move forward. It's really home and really the home and office, I would say, blend here is very good to be able to host these companies and be able to have them here. I will also tell you that, you know, as we look at our companies, and I'm gonna let Mayor talk about the houses more because he's got more data on that and much more of an expert. But with regard to the companies, as I was saying, that they are beginning to look at things a little differently. You know, am I going to have a bullpen, you know, with all these people working in these cubicles? Maybe not so much going into the future. Maybe that space is going to spread out. Perhaps now they're talking about, well, maybe I'm going to work in shifts for a while. Also, they're talking about the fact that perhaps that when they look at their space, they're now going to start planning for more elbow room in terms of more square footage per person. So, you know, on one hand, you might think that, hey, that creates a higher demand on the commercial side, but on the other, maybe it's a smaller footprint because maybe what they do is have more work from home. So all of these things are being worked on right now, and we are seeing companies respond to this, and we are seeing them, but again, though, they're not shutting the doors, backing up and saying, we're not going to do anything right now. They are actively in the market. Matter of fact, we briefed the city council the other night that we have a fairly robust laundry list of active projects that the EDC is working on that are corporate related, corporate headquarters relocations. Some of them are technical companies that are looking, medical related in certain areas. So again, there's a lot of demand out there and it is still moving forward. And Mayor, I'm going to throw it to you on like the buyer's wish list and some of the things that y'all are seeing in the market on the housing side.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are, you know, on this call are probably seeing it in their business, but we're definitely seeing a fundamental shift in housing demand very quickly post-COVID. I mean, buyers are being very intentional about the spaces. They're looking at the home differently, valuing it more, thinking I'm going to be inside my home more in the future, working from home more. So in the past, where a study or an office was kind of an afterthought as far as a place maybe you go pay bills, now it's I'm going to be in my office maybe 8 hours a day, and what is my Zoom background going to look like? People are valuing having nice backyard spaces even more, and then access to parks and trails. So we're definitely seeing that. Frisco was kind of on the leading edge of that. We actually redid our entire residential strategy a few years ago, and we had input from the realtor community, certainly. But part of those stated goals is that no house in our city would have more than a 5-minute walk to a park, with really a goal for every home to have a 3-minute walk to a park. That all of our trail networks and all of the different creek corridors that we have would be interconnected. And so we have a master plan of our hike and bike trails that's thousands of miles long to really build out the city. And then really, you know, as a city design strategy, we've intentionally kind of designed connectivity between our commercial areas to our residential. So we'll talk a little bit about the field zoning case, I think, here later today, but when that is being built, literally some of the single family residences there nearby, they may be able to take a bike to work or walk to work in a very kind of urban Legacy West type setting. And so that's what we're seeing as far as potential opportunity for Frisco in the future, is that we know that people are going to want more of the blending of that workspace with the home space to be able to provide those kinds of you know, amenities and solutions. One other thing is 3 years ago, one of the first things I did as mayor, I'm very passionate about open space, even in our commercial developments, and I've long made the pitch that we should consider our commercial developments to be an extension of our Parks and Recreation plan. And so we actually implemented an open space ordinance for commercial developments requiring every commercial development to have a minimum of 10% open space, and it has to be connected. And so all of our future developments, whether it's a retail corner shopping center, we'll have a park in it, to the office complex that has parks built in, and that's how people are going to want to work, in the future. And there's one that just came up around the corner from my house I'm really excited about, that has a Chipotle and they have a park attached to it. So just little concepts like that really kind of create a real unique experience.
Okay, let's hit the next slide. So again, this is just to give you an idea of what the headquarters and corporate presence looks like in Frisco. It's ever changing. Matter of fact, I was just talking with a staff member before we got on the call. I was like, there's two missing. So anyway, it does. It constantly changes, but we're proud of these. Again, with Keurig obviously being one of the ones that's coming out of the ground over at the Star and PGA of America. We'll talk about that in a second. Why don't you go to the next slide? We have a branding here. You can see from 121 all the way up to 380. That's a 9.9 mile stretch. And you can see there's a number of projects that are going on there. And we're just really excited about the Frisco North Platinum Corridor and everything that's going on. But we're going to talk about a few of these projects. Can you go to the next slide, please? So Hall Park. Mr. Hall has been really one of what we consider founders of Frisco in terms of our development. Now, Mr. Hall took a risk way back when there was literally nothing out here. And, he really leaned in and said, I'm going to establish a presence in Frisco. And Hall Park has done just that, and for many, many years. And you can see this development here that is showing. And what you'll notice is on the right-hand side in the upper, you'll notice there's a large building showing there. Well, Mr. Hall is planning on taking down, as a matter of fact, already started and completed taking down a couple of buildings. These were low-rise buildings, and he is going back in to create some additional density where those buildings will come down, and he's going to put in a high-rise for office, also looking at a hotel, and potentially in the future, looking at down the road, a performing arts center in this development as well. So he has, like I said, long been an advocate of Frisco and an investor. He puts his money where his mouth is and is really leaning in still in Frisco and moving forward with these projects. Can you go to the next slide, please? The building that I was talking about, you'll see a rendering here of what that building looks like. This is going to have a really nice green space out in front. You'll see in this image, you'll look through all of those buildings and down through the park area, and you can see the Ford Center down there. So this will be on axis, this green space with the Ford Center over in the Star. But then once you cross south of the roadway there and cross in from Warren, then what you'll see is that it goes right into this wonderful linear green space. It'll be larger than what you see in the Dallas area with some of those park spaces that are very popular. But also what it'll do is the other end of this green space, we hope that it'll be eventually anchored by a performing arts center as well. So as you can see, the building here is quite beautiful. They are moving forward with this project. Obviously with the pandemic, there was some questions about that. But again, that demolition's already started on the old buildings and actually completed. And they are moving forward to be able to get this project started and hopefully out of the ground here in the very near future. Mayor, is there anything you'd like to add on this one before we go forward? Okay, we're going to go to the next slide. The Star, everybody knows about the Star. I will say that it's kind of exciting. And this image that you see just to the left of where the Ford Center is actually where Dr. Pepper Keurig is going in right now, and it's coming out of the ground. They are moving along at a quick clip, still plan on completing on time and being able to get that facility open. That'll bring, again, even more businesses into Frisco and more employment. So we're very excited about that as well. I can tell you that the developer, Blue Star Land, is also in discussions about potentially some additional office space in the Star as well. So in addition to Dr. Pepper Keurig, they're also having some dialogue about perhaps some additional office space coming out of the ground in the near future. Next slide, please. Again, you can see here the graphic just kind of shows you from an aerial view of what the Star looks like. Again, in that upper left-hand corner, the blue box that you see there, that's Dr. Pepper Keurig. On the right, over next towards the Dallas North Tollway, that is where right now you have both the, well, you've got the Baylor Scott White, and then across the street, across the road there, you've also got the residential tower that's already open. But again, this is where potentially there could be some additional office buildings as well. Next slide, please. So Frisco Station also continues to move forward. The office that you see in the red box there on this graphic, the office development continues to move forward. New building coming out of the ground, another one being discussed. So again, the demand in there has been very good, and we continue to see that that is pressing forward. Have things slowed down just a little bit on that? Yes, but they are continuing to press forward. And we do know that while we may not hit the original deadline, they do still plan to continue moving forward. And matter of fact, the construction does continue as we speak on those buildings. So we're very excited about that. One of the things too that is very important here is you are out in the market. If you're talking to commercial folks, please notice in the upper left-hand corner where it says the campus. That campus is really set aside for any commercial user who comes in and a corporation says, hey, we want to have our own campus. We want multiple buildings perhaps. We want some open space. We want some recreation. That facility is ready to go. And so the utilities are there, the zoning is there, and we're very excited about some of the things that we're hearing. But again, we just want you to know when you're out in the market, that is very much available for being able to move forward. The office space down in the offices, that's filling up quickly, but the campus area in the back is something that we would love for you to help us market that as well. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is the big one that's going on right now. The Fields development, you see there in that red box, or I don't know, it almost looks like an Aggie color, so I have to be careful with that. Especially with the mayor being a Texas guy. But you can see that's 2,500 acres there. The Hunt Realty Investment and Carahan companies are working together to develop this property. I will tell you that this is one of the largest zoning cases that Frisco has had to handle in a number of years. And I will tell you that while it took a long time in terms of going from selling it to zoning and getting everything done, you know, it's still, at the end of the day, when you look at it, some people will say a long time, but from the day it's sold to getting it done, it actually wasn't that long when you look at the scale and the size of it. So I would simply say that we are very excited to have Mr. Carahan and Hunt as partners with us to be able to develop this. We have a little bit more detail about the fields in terms of the next slide here. And then I'm going to let the mayor, I'm going to pitch this to you, Mayor, and see if there's anything you'd like to add. But this is a general graphic of what that zoning looks like and basically a site plan layout. So, Mayor, would you like to speak into this?
I would. So, yes, we're real excited about this project. As Ron mentioned, 2,500 acres, very thoughtfully planned out. It's really going to kind of develop the last third of our city largely. And we ate this elephant, so to speak, by breaking it into, a variety of villages. So if you kind of look at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, that's kind of along the Preston Road. area. That's where our University of North Texas campus is going to be built. And so the phase directly adjacent to that is going to be kind of our university village concept, with amenities and housing that's kind of really catering towards those students there as we build out that campus. And then kind of right there in the middle of it, the heart of it, where that's the Dallas North Tollway that kind of bends through it, is going to be kind of our quote unquote, Legacy West type star office type developments. And Ron mentioned Femi Carahan. So Femi Carahan is the mastermind behind Legacy West and the Shops of Legacy. He was instrumental in bringing a lot of the corporate relocations to Plano. So quite the visionary. And so, as a council member, I got a little tired of Femi spiking the ball in the end zone on us over there in Plano. So it was my mission to go recruit him and get him started working here in Frisco. And so thankfully, partnered with Hunt Realty. Everyone here on this call knows their history of building legacy projects here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So they are definitely in this for the long haul. So they're out there already looking at corporate attractions and what that can look like there. And then as you move to the west or the left of this slide, that's kind of where the residential areas will start kicking in. And so the area that's directly adjacent to the course, we used to call it the mitt because it looked like an old baseball mitt. That's what's called the preserve, and it's going to be a mix of products. So it'll be your estate lots that you would think of, what we call kind of our ESPN lots that the blimp may take, adjacent to the course. But there's going to be a variety of housing options for people who want to live adjacent to this asset. So there'll be some of the things like you saw Britton Homes do in Legacy West, as far as maybe 3-story dense product with a rooftop deck that overlooks the course, to half-acre lots, to townhomes perhaps. And so it was important to them that it not just cater to one buyer profile, that it would cater to a cross-section profile. And then as you move further south in this development, you get some more of your traditional single family, something that you would see like a Phillips Creek Ranch. In fact, the developers, Republic Property Group, that did Phillips Creek Ranch and did Light Farms and Stonebridge Ranch, they were actually brought in as partners of this development as well to help them master plan all the single family products. And then we'll zoom into the actual course itself, but the north part of this along 380 is additional commercial development that'll be tied into the PGA asset.
Yes, sir. So again, we're just excited about everything that's going on, everything that's moving forward. We do have available for you, if you've never gone out to the friscoedc.com/maps. There are a ton of different mapping options out there. The one that you see there for business, you can click on that and get all of our development information and lots of zoning, all types of information is available online today. And so we would just encourage you to use these tools and be able to use those. That said, I think that we're actually going to stop right here and we're going to hand it back and see if you've got any questions for us, unless, Mayor, there's something you'd like to close with.
Ron, did we not have a slide of the actual course in this presentation?
No, sir. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I'll give a quick update. I know that'll probably be the first question anyway, is an update on the PGA course. So it is under construction, as we speak. So everyone asks if the timeline is still set, and it is. In fact, if you go out there today, you can see the bunkers already in, dirt's in there. And I actually had a call yesterday with Robert Elliott, who was kind of one of the masterminds of bringing him here. In his words, he essentially, and he's a golfer, he knows the best golf courses, in the state and in the country. While he knew this was going to be, in his opinion, a great golf course, after he walked the course last week, in his opinion, he says if this is not named the #1 golf course in Texas within the first 2 years, he will be shocked. He said it's the best golf course he's ever walked in his life. So we're really excited about just the caliber of the course that's going to be out there. There's significant elevation change. It's not property that you would expect to see in North Texas. Some holes will drop 150 feet in elevation. There's going to be more water on the course than I realized. And the course will actually be done to the casual observer, what I was told, by October. And then they like to let it season for a year. So the headquarters and the Omni Resort, will probably be completed here in about 2 years. And we're preparing for our first tournament in 2023. So the course is exciting. It's going to be 2 18-hole championship golf courses. There's going to be a 10-hole short course that's going to be actually lit. PGA likes to joke that they'll let people play as late as the mayor will let them. And that's really kind of designed to introduce golf to a new audience. And that's one of their big goals of moving here to this region was to think about the sport of golf for the next 50 years and really introduce it to a new group of players. And so this 10-hole short course is designed for, if you just want a quick round of play before dinner, or for novices to go out there and start to being introduced to the game before, maybe they move to a more intimidating 18-hole type of environment. But the Omni Resort is going to be actually the Omni's flagship resort. So they're designing it to be the nicest resort that they've done as a company. And so their renderings are really spectacular. It's going to be a 500-room resort with convention center space attached to it. There's going to be private villas that you can rent. And then there's going to be an actual entertainment and retail district that's actually attached to the golf course as well. Very much like you see at the Star, where there'll be a 2-acre putting green that's going to have a major big screen attached to it that they can have movie nights for families or putting games. There's going to be an ice house concept that you can roll up the back doors and actually hit out onto the driving range. There's going to be shopping and restaurants and Top Golf type experience attached to it. So it's going to be really extraordinary. Even if people don't love golf, they're going to want to be around there. And just how this course is actually set up to kind of give you can't really give it justice until you go out and see it for yourself, but essentially it's a big bowl is the best way to describe it, where the resorts and the clubhouse and the retail and restaurants and the future office parks kind of sit at the top of the bowl, and the course is down kind of below. And so traditionally, when you go to a golf course, if you've got a golf view, you can see the hole that's directly in front of you. When you go out to this piece of property and you're standing in those areas, you can literally see across the course. And so you can see multiple holes at the same time, and some high points you can see the entire course. It's going to be just a really extraordinary environment for entertainment, for tournaments. They promise 15 tournaments per contract in the first 12 years. It's going to have substantial economic impact to this entire region. And Frisco residents actually get preferred golf tee times, as well as preferred rates to play the course, because it is a public course. So for all your golf loving clients out there, be sure to make sure they move to Frisco.
All right. Well, I think we're going to hand it back and be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
David, I think you may be on mute.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. I didn't have total control over that. Thank you once again, Mayor Cheney and Ron. And we do have some questions. Adam, do you have any before I have a few? Okay. Yeah, you're muted also, Adam. So the first question is to both of you. Looking at it, how does home ownership attract business and commercial? The fact that we have pretty good home affordability and availability of homes, what factors does that play in attracting the businesses to our area, to Frisco in particular?
Sure, I'll jump in there first. And as Ron kind of alluded to earlier, the two really go hand in hand with one another. more now post-COVID even than prior to COVID. You know, as Ron mentioned, you know, a lot of times when we would try to go after these corporations, you know, we would score, you know, 100 out of 100 in 8 out of the 10 categories. The 2 that we would score low on would be access to public transportation and high density urban living environments. And the reason that that was important to employers is obviously every employer wants access to talent and access to a talent pool. Well, now their employees are already telling them, saying, we don't want to live in those environments. We don't want to have to rely on public transportation to get to work every single day coming out of a post-COVID area. And so how we're going to be able to now turn that and spin it to a positive here in the future to make us even more attractive to corporations is that very, you know, concept, which is if you move your business here, your employees can live in the community that they work in, that they're not going to have to rely on public transportation to get to work, that they have these affordable options, that they can have a place where they can raise their family. And that's really attractive to these companies when they can see that sense of stability. You know, if they make an investment in an employee, you know, in their companies here in Frisco, and that employee is able to get their life established in that same community, then they're more likely to be, number one, happy, but, you know, a longer term employee that wants to kind of stay in that environment. So we've always really viewed the 2 concepts working hand to hand and blend over, you know, with each other.
Yeah, thank you. Another question is for Mayor Cheney. Would you discuss what is a good balance of commercial and residential tax burden, what that looks like, and why the balance is important? And Ron, you can chime in as well, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the long term, we'd like to see that balance get split, you know, 50-50, you know, that's important to us. You know, one of the reasons why our tax rate is so low is that blend of balance, you know, as far as having a commercial driver towards our tax base and our value base. So all of our tax burden isn't on our homeowners. You know, and so you do see that with some rooftop only communities that, you know, then the burden falls completely on their homeowners. Part of the reason I think we were also named the most recession proof city is we also go out and look for other revenue sources, you know, kind of what we call other people's money, so to speak. And so tourism is a big part of that, you know, where we have 6 million visitors, you know, a year, you know, to our city that drove sales tax, helped our local business, helped our hotels, you know, all the different tournaments that we bring here and football championships, you know, they're going up year round, was also a big tax driver for us. Of course, now that's slowed down a little bit with COVID, and that'll pick back up next year, but kind of having that balance of those different sources, you know, is important to the fundamentals of your budget. And so we look at our budget right now, and our sales tax is still on budget, believe it or not. And so part of that is kind of spreading those sources of revenues, you know, across multiple areas.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just add, I'll add on to that, you know, just exactly what the mayor said. I mean, the fact of that diversification, that's the biggest thing. You know, and the other piece of it is too, is, you know, some people on the commercial side talk about, well, what are the specific industries that you're going after? You know, which ones? And I got to tell you that there are certain things that we do go after, but at the end of the day, we want to talk to all of them, because what you don't want to do is every single business, whether there's a pandemic or not, every business has a cycle, up and down. And if all of your business is in one basket on the commercial side, and it gets that dip, then you feel the biggest impact. If you can change that up so that you've got a spread or a good mix of those commercial businesses and those industries, then you don't necessarily have to feel the bottom near as much. And so it's a mix of that as well. That'd really be the only thing I'd add to what the mayor said.
Yeah. Sort of like Texas in the old days with oil. When oil went down, Texas went down. But okay, another question for either one of you.
David,
how important is the regional market and financial help of North Texas to attracting businesses, and how does homeownership fit into this?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely work and collaborate as a region. You know, even when you go back to the Amazon bid that we did as a region, you know, all the cities kind of work together on that. We certainly want, while we compete with our neighbors, you know, and you know, we have friendly competition with the other mayors around. If a Toyota didn't come to Frisco, or JP Morgan Chase didn't come to Frisco, the next best place I want them to go is Plano. You know, actually, Toyota, more percentage of their employees live in Frisco than in any other city. And so, you know, it's a rising tide mentality, which is we want our neighbors to be successful. The things that the Colony is doing with Grandscape, we think is wonderful. You know, back when Nebraska Furniture Mart, you know, came to the market, there was concerns that it would steal sales tax from Frisco. The opposite happened, which is it just brought more people to the region who wanted to shop, and they also went to Frisco to shop. And so we saw our sales tax increase. And so, you know, we definitely root for our neighbors to be successful as they do for us.
Very good.
David, I have some questions from the audience.
Yeah, go ahead. Certainly.
Okay. First one's from April Harmon, and they would like to know. I want to ask if they believe the economic developments mentioned will increase the cost of housing.
If economic development will increase the cost of housing, well, you know, I think us in the realtor community and real estate community, we love when values are rising, and we want to buy into communities that values are rising, and that's kind of the best advocacy we can do for our clients. Is, you know, if any of the people on this call sell someone a home, you hope that when they call you back to sell it 5 years from now, that they've done well on that home. And so, you know, I think certainly without question, you know, those become some challenges as Frisco, you know, becomes a victim of our own success, so to speak. And that land in Frisco is very expensive. It's very expensive to develop here. There's going to be a halo effect around the PGA. That area of our city is going to develop almost overnight, it's going to seem like. And, you know, I think a lot of people are looking at Frisco right now in communities like Hollyhock. You know, smart money definitely is buying here for that very purpose, which is, you know, as these projects come out of the ground and as they get completed, that's just going to increase the demand and therefore increase pricing. So, you know, I think absolutely you're going to see rising values here in Frisco, and for the long term, obviously, you know, we think that's a positive thing. You know, I hear all the time, you know, people, when you're paying your tax bill, you don't want your values to go up, right? But when you sell it, you hope they did go up. And so one of the things I've told people in the past is it's very easy for local governments to make decisions for your property values to go down. That is actually very easy to do. What's very hard to do is to have a comprehensive plan and make decisions for a community to become attractive and become more valuable. And that is very, very much our goal here in Frisco.
Well, and I'd just add to that too, that as the mayor mentioned earlier, yes, the values, you know, will likely increase, but also remember that you've got a council with a vision that is trying to keep those rates as low as possible, and then turning around and adding on top of that, trying to be able to give freezes for, you know, the elderly, and being able to give more homestead exemption headed towards that cap. So again, that is an important factor as well.
So I've got a couple of questions for you. One of them, I mean, every time I drive through Frisco, I'm amazed at all the brand new stuff that I see coming out of the ground. I am curious about one project that's not your all's fault, but Wade Park. Looks like it's a pretty big swimming pool right now, but can you comment on maybe what you see possibly happening there going forward?
Yeah, we affectionately call it Waite Park, but yes, there's definitely progress towards that. So it's come out of bankruptcy, and the lender, Gamma, did take the property back. They actually put it out to market. There is tremendous demand from, a who's list of potential developers that were interested in that site. I think that made them realize just how valuable the property was. And so where they've left it is they are now looking to potentially self-develop that property.
So,
and they're already in, I think, conversations as far as, looking at, the first phase that they want to complete there.
yeah, and so they're basically talking about just picking up the existing mixed-use plan and going forward with it.
I think it's more likely that they will revise the plan. I think, in their opinion, it was too heavy of a plan towards retail and needed to have more emphasis on entertainment, which,
Right.
As a city, we tend to agree with that, and would like to see there be more of an entertainment component in that development.
Yeah, okay. And shifting focus, the Uber Elevate, with COVID and everything, what's happened with that concept and that idea?
So for those that haven't heard of Uber Elevate, it is literally the Jetsons, so flying drones for people. Hillwood, who many people on this call know as well, is the driver of that with the relationships they have in that space. And so, essentially the concept is you could take an Uber Elevate from Frisco Station, be at your terminal at the airport in about 7 minutes, and the cost would be what it would have cost you to take an Uber Black. So that's kind of the easiest way to describe what that project's going to be. And so they already have a pad there. They're going to start test flights with helicopters first, but that is going to be a reality. Frisco is going to be the first city in the United States to have Uber Elevate as part of our community. We'd love to be beta testers for new technologies. We think that's the future of transportation. We don't think the future of transportation is investing in 100-year-old technology. And like I said in the chamber call this week, those that have made major investments in some of these legacy public transportation areas, I think maybe challenged even more so than before as we start moving forward. And we think public transportation's future is privatization and new emerging technologies. And so we're going to continue to invest in those. We're really excited about it.
Okay, well, thank you, Mayor. I think Adam's got one more question from the audience, and then I guess we might wrap it up.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have one last for you. This is from Victor Russell. He would like to know how much land is still available down the tollway corridor in Frisco.
As a city, we're getting close to 70% built out. The Fields zoning case takes a big piece of it. There are a few sites that are available. Ron, you may have a few more mentions there. A whole kind of Grand Park district as well. Kind of that core area will continue to develop. Our development trend is going to change, in my opinion. So it used to be we would kind of take one step up the ladder, the rung of the ladder down the tollway, and just kind of inch further north. Now there's going to be just like a bomb that goes off at 380 in the tollway because of this PGA project. And so I think that part of our city will develop, probably 15 years faster than it otherwise would have. And so we'll see that emerge very quickly. And then, essentially we'll probably start kind of developing towards our middle from both edges, so to speak, because of the assets on our south side between Stonebriar and the Star, and then now our north side with the PGA.
Thank you.
I would agree that you're going to see them. You're going to see it start to come like this, coming together. As far as the development. But as he said, the Grand Park area, the property there. I mean, if you look at the intersection of Main Street and the tollway, there's some large tracts of land literally right there as well, and even just north of Main. So there's quite a bit still available right along the tollway.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Great story. We know how exciting Frisco is for all of us that are in the real estate business up here. And thank you for your time and the information for Mayor Cheney and Mr. Patterson, both of you. So in conclusion, next month, the Greater Fort Worth Association of Realtors, on behalf of the North Texas Realtors Associations, will be hosting the next Homeownership Matters series on August 13th at 1 p.m. More details will be coming in the not too distant future. So everyone, take care, stay healthy, and hopefully we'll see you all soon, in person.